Meanwhile, Ji-hook was also in the building, witnessing the emotional scene unfold. He immediately turned his head and made a phone call. Ji-won led her mother into a cafe on the first floor and asked her why she had suddenly come to find her. She questioned why her mother had not been in touch all these years and why she chose today to seek her out. Her mother replied that she felt guilty and had kept her distance. She had thought about searching for Ji-won 1,000 times, and many times she had stood outside her school, only daring to watch her from afar. Ji-won asked how her mother knew she was working there. Her mother responded that she had heard someone mention her. Grasping Ji-won's hands, she pleaded for her forgiveness. All she wanted was for Ji-won to allow her to visit occasionally from now on. That was all she desired, to make amends for her mistakes over the years. Ji-won was still in shock. A person she had almost forgotten had suddenly reappeared in her life. The server brought their food to the table and asked where to place the fried eggs. Ji-won's mother quickly said to put them on Ji-won's side, asking if she still enjoyed eating eggs, recalling how delicious it was to watch her eat rice with eggs when she was little. Ji-won asked her mother if she still remembered the things from her childhood. Her mother replied, "Of course I remember. You were always praised for your beauty, fair-skinned with a lovely smile." Ji-won thought to herself, "If I was so beautiful, why did you leave me? Why did you take all the money and disappear with your lover? Why didn't you attend my father's funeral?" There were so many questions she had for her mother, but she didn't want to voice them, even though she knew that if her mother answered, it would probably just be excuses. Today, she wanted to hear everything. After finishing their meal, Ji-won took her mother to the apartment where she lived. Her mother said she was very happy to see her living in such a nice place. Ji-won asked if her mother wanted to come in and tour her apartment. Her mother said that she must be tired after today and that it was best to go home and rest early. Just having dinner and walking together made her very happy. Her mother thanked Ji-won for coming to see her, telling her that if she missed her, she could call any time. Hearing her say that, Ji-won felt truly confused. For so long, she had felt like she no longer had a mother, but today, her mother suddenly appeared before her, leaving Ji-won in a whirlwind of emotions. Ji-won asked her mother if she could give her a hug. She then asked if her mother had seen the news about her upcoming wedding. Her mother fell silent upon hearing that question, then immediately brightened up, congratulating Ji-won on her engagement. She took Ji-won's hand and excitedly asked when the wedding would be, wondering if she could attend. Ji-won pulled her hand away and said she wasn't getting married. She sadly told her mother that the article was false. While she was seriously seeing someone, she had no intention of marrying him. Her mother told her that no matter what, she would always be her beloved child. She hoped that even if Ji-won didn't have blessings from her parents, she would find happiness with her boyfriend. She was glad Ji-won met someone good, and her only wish was for Ji-won to live. That would ease her guilt a little. Ji-won cried and hugged her mother tightly. After so many years, she finally felt the warmth of her mother's love. The two of them embraced for a long moment, lost in silence. Eventually, they realized it was getting late. Ji-won's mother said her goodbyes and started to head home. As Ji-won watched her mother disappear from view, she still couldn't believe what had just happened. She wondered why, after all these years, her mother chose this moment to reconnect. Her mother, after walking away, quickly pulled out her phone and called her husband. She told the person on the other end that she had met Ji-won. He asked if it was true that Ji-won had a boyfriend. She grimaced and told the man to hold on, as if she had just lured a tiger into its den. The voice on the other end sounded frantic, mentioning that he was trying to stop his own checks and needed to pay his son's salary this month. She told her husband that he wasn't just any ordinary businessman and suggested he try to pull in as much money as possible for their business. A wicked smile spread across her face once she hung up. She thought her plan was absolutely flawless. While she was gleeful about the prospect of exploiting a large sum of money from the daughter she hadn't seen in years, she couldn't help but feel satisfied with her cunning move. Suddenly, she spotted a man standing a short distance away. Startled, she asked who was standing there. It turned out to be Ji-hook, who had intentionally been waiting for her for a while. He slowly approached her, greeting the mother of Ji-won warmly and introducing himself as Ji-won's boyfriend. Her face paled, but she quickly fainted with delight, exclaiming that he must be the young man who would become her son-in-law. She expressed her joy at meeting Ji-won, complimenting him and saying that he looked even more handsome in person than in the news. She then asked when he planned to marry Ji-won. Ji-won cut to the chase and asked how much money would be enough. She directly asked how much it would take for her mother to disappear from her life. Her mother pretended to be angry, questioning how he could treat someone who was about to be his mother-in-law like that. She immediately took out her phone, claiming she would call Ji-won to tell her about this injustice. Ji-hook told her to go ahead and do that. John-hook informed her that the assets her father had spent a lifetime accumulating, even the savings account, were in her name. All the money she had been giving her was from her business. He also reinvestigated the insurance company calls when her father passed away. At that time, she lived only a 2-hour drive away, yet never once tried to find her daughter. But after seeing the news that her daughter was about to marry a tycoon, she rushed over. He told her to share all of this with Ji-won. She fell silent, not expecting to be discovered so quickly. She began to lay her cards on the table, asking Jin-hook if he had investigated her circumstances. She admitted that she had done everything for money and that while she had told Ji-won she would take her back, there was no need to pretend anymore. She told him that if he gave her 2 billion won, she would do as he said. Jin-hook replied that aside from not appearing in front of Ji-won again, she should never contact him either. She told him that all she needed was money, so once she received enough, she would follow his instructions. She then pulled out a piece of paper with her bank account number and handed it to Jean-hook, telling him to transfer the money into this account for her. After saying that, she bade him farewell and headed home. Jung-hook watched her leave, determined to protect Ji-won. He would not let this woman hurt her again. As she walked away, she hummed a tune, pleased to have achieved her goal. But there was one thing that neither she nor Jung-hook expected. Earlier, she had accidentally opened her phone and called Ji-won. Everything she had just said to Ji-hook had been heard by. She was truly shocked to learn that the mother she had just reunited with after so many years was only seeking her out for money. Ji-won felt immense pain as she realized how foolish she had been. She now understood that her mother wasn't looking for her out of love, but for financial gain. She was certain her mother had seen the news about her upcoming marriage, which prompted her to seek her out. Yet, she had also been happy to have a mother. Jin-hook anxiously looked at the message she sent. She apologized for not answering the phone, saying she wanted to be alone and would call him back later. The rain began to pour. Jin-hook didn't know what to do to prevent Ji-won from getting hurt again. Why did life keep throwing her into the depths of despair? The next morning, at the airport, Manager O bowed his head to welcome Director D back. The director politely inquired about Manager O's health, then glanced at the clock, guessing that Jin-hook was probably busy, but Haini had more free time and still didn't come to pick her up. Manager O explained that Hainin had to work overtime this weekend. Director D smiled proudly, saying that the girl was quite capable. Once in the car, she asked again, "I heard Ji-won's biological mother came looking for her." Manager O confirmed that they had followed Ji-won's advice to arrange protection for Ji-won. Director D asked if the woman claiming to be Ji-won's mother was after money. Manager O confirmed that was indeed the case. The director sighed, knowing it all too well. That woman was not worthy of being Ji-won's mother. It seemed she would have to handle this matter personally. Meanwhile, at a coffee shop, Ji-won's mother was anxiously waiting, worried that Jin-hook had told Ji-won about her intentions for money. She regretted leaving after giving Jin-hook her bank account details. Soon after, Ji-won arrived. She had arranged to meet her mother and recounted everything she knew. Then she turned and walked away. Her mother, feeling regretful, asked why Ji-won lied after promising to give her money. Ji-won, in tears, asked if only her mother had the right to lie. Her mother angrily questioned if Ji-won dared to joke with the woman who gave her life. Ji-won wiped her tears and said, "Don't dream of getting money from me. You should take care of yourself. Let's not meet again." Her words made her mother furious. The mother immediately lunged to grab Ji-won's hair. Suddenly, a hand grasped her wrist, stopping her in her tracks. Ji-won's mother was taken aback, seeing a stranger standing before her. Wondering who this woman was to interfere in her business, she demanded to know who she was. The woman calmly replied that she couldn't lay a hand on their precious daughter. The woman responded, "Ji-won is a proud daughter of the UNK group, and I have raised her far longer than her biological mother ever did." Ji-won was astonished to see Ji-hwang's mother, who was also the director of the Chagaman branch, appear at that moment. When Ji-won asked why the director was here, the director instructed Manager Oh to take Ji-won home. She wanted to have a little chat with Ji-won's mother. The director insisted that Manager Oh take Ji-won home, but Ji-won's mother refused, demanding that the director come back and help her. She was furious to see Ji-won ignoring her and leaving with Manager Oh. She shouted loudly at Ji-hook's mother, thinking that a wealthy family would have some class, so why was she just like her son? Ji-hook's mother replied, "The world is much better, but those words are coming from a mother who abandoned her child." She clarified that Ji-won's biological mother had not only abandoned her husband and child, but had no right to be called a mother. Ji-won's mother felt terrified when her true name was mentioned. Ji-hook's mother then asked if she lived with a man named Dong Manit, 58 years old, who ran a company that led to a compensation of 100 million won due to poor management. It was because he embezzled and evaded taxes that she deserved such a fate. Ji-won's mother was sweating profusely and suggested they could negotiate a bit. Ji-hwon's mother shook her head and turned to leave, saying she only wanted to talk to a human being. She was furious that this woman had dared to deceive the daughter she had discarded. No amount of money would save her now. Ji-hwon's mother yelled that no matter what, Ji-won was still her daughter, the child she bore with great pain. Ji-hwon's mother was surprised and asked, "Who gave birth to?" She was curious to see her BL blaming herself for what she did wrong, clearly understanding that she didn't deserve to be called a mother. She even mentioned that she was trying very hard to restrain herself from skinning Ji-won's mother alive. At that moment, Ji-won's mother felt very scared. She asked if all she needed to do was promise not to see Ji-won again. Ji-won's mother shook her head in confusion, wondering why someone so vile could be so clueless. Did she really think she came here just to say those things? Ji-won's mother said she had shattered Ji-won's heart, and if she couldn't sleep peacefully in the future, neither would she. Ji-won's mother, now drenched in sweat, asked if they could negotiate a little. Ji-hook's mother shook her head and walked away, saying she only wanted to talk to a human being. As Ji-hook's mother left, Ji-won's mother was left behind, kneeling down, wondering if she was really going to lose everything like this. Meanwhile, Manager Oh took Ji-won to the company. By the time they arrived, Jin-hook was waiting for her at the door. When Ji-won saw him, she felt deeply moved. She immediately tossed the umbrella in her hand and rushed toward Jin-hook, hugging him tightly. She found a sense of peace whenever she was by his side. Jin-hook held Ji-won close, wishing he could protect her from all the pain. If only he could bear it for her. Manager Oh had completed his mission and was heading back. Ji-won could no longer hold back. She cried loudly and clung to Jin-hook. She told him she had heard everything over the phone and asked if his mother had secretly been investigating her because she was afraid of her getting hurt. Jin-hook replied that he had just learned about his mother's visit from Manager Oh. Ji-won, feeling dejected, said she was exhausted because her mother only thought about money. If Ji-won's mother had been honest, Ji-won would have helped her live well. But instead, her mother chose to pretend to love her, causing Ji-won even more pain. She felt as though her mother saw her as a fool. Jin-hook reassured Ji-won, telling her she wasn't a fool. He then revealed a secret. Mrs. Cha wasn't his biological mother. His real mother had passed away when he was very young, and his father remarried later, which is how he got a mother and a younger sister. His younger sister was H-Jin's biological mother. Ji-won was astonished. This was the first time she had heard this from him. Jin-hook recounted a memory from when he was very young. It was a rainy day, just like today. After school, he waited for the driver as usual, but that day no one came to pick him up. When all his friends had left, a woman came to pick him up. That was the first time he met Mrs. Cha. He was surprised to see her come to pick him up, but she approached him with a gentle smile, making him feel a sense of closeness. She apologized for being late, wearing a business suit and beautiful shoes. Even though her feet were soaked, she still held the umbrella over him and walked slowly alongside him. Jin-hook said that even though they weren't blood, she still had a motherly presence. If she were his biological mother, it would have been even better. He reassured Ji-won that it wasn't that she was foolish, but rather that she missed her mother too much. He told her that compared to the people he knew, she was a wonderful person and strong. He urged her not to hurt herself anymore. Ji-won was deeply touched. She leaned her head against his hand, wanting to be spoiled by him just like a puppy. She thanked him for talking to her, as hearing him made her braver in facing everything. She realized that the only one who could truly protect her was herself. Ji-won stood up and told him she would step outside for a bit. He asked where she was going at this hour, and she said she was going to meet Sumin to sort out this deadly grudge. She arrived where Sumin was being held, feeling pleased that her plan had gone smoothly. Sumin slowly sat back in the chair opposite Ji-won. Ji-won greeted her and said it had been a long time since they last met. Sumin asked Ji-won what brought her there, secretly thinking that if Ji-won had come all the way here, something big must have happened, like a broken engagement. Ji-won told Sumin that she and Hook were doing very well and nothing special had happened. She explained that because she and Hook loved each other so much, nothing could tear them apart. Sumin was very surprised by Ji-won's words. She couldn't understand why things were like this, especially since she had informed Gwan's mother's family. Why wasn't anything happening? Ji-won asked Sumin why her expression was like that. Ji-won then directly asked Sumin if she intended to use her biological mother to destroy the engagement, but she was sorry to disappoint her. It wasn't going to happen, as Sumin had hoped. Ji-won told Sumin that she had always wondered what her biological mother had done wrong to make her hate her so much. She told Sumin to just say everything today. Ji-won said that her mother's affair with Sumin's father wasn't her fault. They were the ones who abandoned their family and ran away. When Sumin heard this, she became curious. For Sumin, it was Ji-won's mother who caused her father to leave. Because of that, her mother had been drinking all day and abusing her. Everything she had to go through was Ji-won's fault, because her mother gave birth to her. Sumin still remembered the time when she overheard Ji-won's mother talking to her dad. She asked if her dad intended to take Sumin in. If so, would he take Ji-won away too? She questioned whether he would bring someone else's child home while abandoning his own. At that time, Ji-won's mother had told her dad that he could only take care of Sumin if he also took care of her. That's when Sumin felt her happiness had been completely snatched away by Ji-won. Even her father had been taken away from her. Ji-won had stolen everything from her. If Ji-won didn't exist, Sumin wouldn't be so miserable. Sumin shouted loudly that it was all Ji-won's fault that she ended up like this, just like Ji-won's mother's affair. Sumin angrily yelled that she should have crashed her car to kill Ji-won back then, no matter the consequences. It would have been better than seeing Ji-won live happily while she had to suffer in prison like this. Ji-won told her she was truly a pitiful child. Sumin asked Ji-won why she dared to look at her like that, someone isolated like Ji-won who only wore strange clothes. Ji-won calmly replied, asking who her words were directed at. She was sure she couldn't take anything from her anymore. Sumin fell silent when she heard Ji-won say that. Ji-won then said that she now had enough courage to protect herself. Having said everything she needed to say, she stood up, said goodbye to Sumin and left. Sumin asked why Ji-won was leaving so quickly. There was still time to meet, and if Ji-won left now, she would be all alone again. Ji-won replied that there was no more time. She needed to go because someone was waiting for her outside. Sumin called after Ji-won, hoping she would come back next time so they could continue their conversation. She insisted that Ji-won must visit her no matter what, not to leave her alone. Sumin bowed her head and cried bitterly. In the end, she was still all alone. She pleaded with Ji-won to please come visit her. They used to be best friends. Ji-won apologized to Sumin. saying she didn't think she would ever visit her again. Before leaving, Ji-won reminded her to take care of herself. She said goodbye to Sumin, marking the complete end of their friendship. This also marked the end of her unfortunate entanglement with her. There had been a time when she felt like she was suffering to the point of death, but now she was determined to live a truly happy life. Ji-won turned and walked away, leaving Sumin there, screaming. She quickly stepped outside, where Jin-hook was waiting for her. He was overjoyed to see her back. Ji-won looked at the man before her, grateful that fate had granted her another chance at life, allowing her to recognize her feelings for him. The two held hands and headed back together. Jin-hook told her that the weather was beautiful today and hoped her life would shine as brightly as the sun from now on. Ji-won replied that everything deep and complicated was left behind. Nothing could stop her and him from being together anymore. Jin-hook took Ji-won to his grandfather's house and told her to wait a moment while he rang the doorbell. When someone answered, Hayin appeared very excited, asking why a dragon had come to the dragon's house today when she saw Jin-hook. Her enthusiasm suddenly faded. She asked why he was there, jokingly saying that he had somehow wandered into the dragon's house. Ji-won politely greeted the chairman and the director, thanking them for inviting her. Hayen told Ji-won that her mother had prepared a wonderful meal and that today her grandfather looked very handsome. Everyone had done their best to welcome her. The director mentioned that the food was ready and invited everyone to eat. The grandfather mentioned that they were especially celebrating Ji-won's birthday today, so he hoped she would eat a lot. Ji-hook then wished her a happy birthday. He said everyone had put in a lot of effort to organize this party and hoped she would have a great time. Ji-won thanked everyone, wondering if it was okay to receive so many well wishes. The chairman told her that Ji-hook had worked hard to meet her, so she should just enjoy herself and not be too tense. Ji-won said she would enjoy the meal with all her gratitude. She picked up her chopsticks and tried a few dishes, surprised when she looked up to see everyone staring at her intently. They all asked if the food was delicious, if it was to her taste, and how it tasted, which made her feel quite pressured. Ji-won told everyone that if it continued like this, she would end up with a full belly and eyes. Everyone burst into laughter at the same time. The family atmosphere was truly warm. Before long, the party was all set up. Ji-won said her goodbyes and thanked everyone for today. She mentioned how happy she was, waved to everyone, and headed home. The director handed Ji-won a letter, advising her to open it and read it alone when she got home. She told Ji-won to call her Mum from now on. Jin-hook asked if the birthday letter was written by her own hand. She said she had lived in the very house she bought for Hayin, and that meeting Jin meant Ji-won was indeed her daughter. This was fate's arrangement. Jin-hook thanked the director profusely. She happily called the director Mom. Jin-hook opened the car door for Ji-won to get in, and they headed back home together. Ji-won opened the letter to read. The director expressed her joy in meeting her and felt proud that Ji-hook had found a girlfriend like her. She thanked Ji-won as a mother and mentioned hearing many people gossip about her dating the eldest son of the corporation. She told her not to let those words get to her and not to dwell on it. She hoped Ji-won would share her feelings with those she loved. Once again, she wished her a happy birthday and told her she loved her very much. Ji-won held the letter close to her heart. For the first time, she felt genuine care from a mother. She was very grateful to her for that and would definitely cherish the important things around her more. At that moment, Ji-hook had taken Ji-won to Busan. He parked the car at a beach and then woke her up. Ji-hook asked if she had slept well and told her that today wasn't over yet. Her birthday was still ongoing. Ji-won looked at him sheepishly. She had dozed off and asked him where they were. He told her that today was a special day, so he wanted to take her to a special place. He had something very important to tell her. Ji-won asked Jin-hook what that important thing was. He took out a stack of envelopes and handed them to her. He said the shares he owned in the corporation totaled 15 shares. He mentioned that this was the transfer document for the Samsung building that his grandfather had given him. Ji-won asked if he really intended to give all of this to her. She joked, asking if he wasn't proposing marriage to her right then. Jin-hook said that if, after he finished speaking, she didn't like it, he wouldn't bring it up again. He also presented a commitment document stating that no matter what Ji-won did after they got married, whether it was business, studying, or working, he would fully support her. Ji-won held the commitment document and skimmed through it, finding that everything in it was beneficial for her. Jin-hook mentioned that all the conditions were written by him. Because he likes her, he is willing to do everything for her to ensure Ji-won's happiness. Ji-hook will always do his best. Ji-won felt a bit shy and wanted to open the window a little to breathe in the fresh air. Ji-won asked why he didn't promise to make her happy but instead said he would do his best. Would that be enough? Jin-hook explained that everyone has different elements that contribute to their happiness. Among the things he wants to do for her, there might be mistakes, and in those moments, if she speaks up, he will correct them. He even joked that if she told him to pretend to die, he would just act like he did. Ji-won remembered her father and realized that this was the reason her dad chose him. She asked him why he would pretend to die. Jin-hook replied that if he really died, she wouldn't be happy anymore. He truly loved Ji-won. He knelt before her and took out the engagement ring he had prepared. He asked her if she could accept this ring because he wanted to have her. Ji-won said she had decided not to marry in this lifetime and he already knew that. Jin-hook acknowledged that he knew all of that, but he still wanted to do what he wanted to do. He slowly stood up, explaining that he had driven for hours to this special location just to propose to her. Finally, he managed to say the clumsy words he wanted to express. Ji-won told him that she loved him too and wanted to be by his side for a lifetime. For her, just being able to live with this man was already great happiness. Ji-won asked him if he wanted to try living together. Jin-hook was taken aback by her proposal. He embraced her tightly and kissed her passionately. Ji-won silently promised her father that she would definitely live happily, hoping he would watch over her from heaven. The next day, Jin-hook arrived at the company before Ji-won. When she arrived, she asked him why he got there so quickly and if he had been waiting for her for a long time. Jin-hook told her that he was fine and was also looking into something a bit. Ji-won was surprised to see the staff taking down the sign for In-won's cafe. She asked Jin-hook why the cafe was closed. Jin-hook asked if she didn't know about this, saying that it seemed In-won had quit the cafe and he wondered how Hin would feel about it. Ji-won asked him how this was related to Hyein, and Jin-hook replied, "Don't you know that Hyein likes In-won?" Ji-won was taken aback when she heard that. She told him she thought Hyein only liked the desserts there. She asked how he knew about this, clearly feeling that she should have a better perspective on life than he did. So why hadn't she noticed it? Suddenly, Ji-won realized that today's lunch menu featured ribs, and Hyein hadn't had lunch yet. Jin-hook thought this could be serious, and Ji-won suggested she would ask In-hanan about it, while he proposed inviting Hyein to dinner with In-han that evening. Ji-won went to find Hyein and asked her what brought her all the way there. Ji-won told her that In-hanan would be studying abroad in Switzerland the next day. Hyein replied that she already knew about it, but it didn't concern her. She and In-hanan weren't that close. Ji-won mentioned that In-hanan's flight was at 7:30 the next morning and hoped Hyein would meet him in the morning. Ji-won added that she didn't know when he would return. It could be a few years, not just 1 or 2 months. Hyein replied, "It doesn't matter to me if he goes to Switzerland. He doesn't necessarily have to bring back chocolate." Ji-won asked her, "If you feel fine, then why are you crying?" Hyein quickly wiped her tears away and said that In-hwan didn't care about her and she didn't like someone so ordinary. Ji-won asked, "If In-hwan didn't care about you and you didn't like him, then why did he save a piece of dessert for you every day?" Ji-won also asked why Hyein accepted it. Hyein remembered In-hwan's gentle smile whenever he brought out the dessert for her. Sorrowfully, she told Ji-won that the dessert was meant for her. In-won had given it to her. Clearly, Hyein wasn't just a substitute for Ji-won. Hyein then asked Ji-won if she had ever liked cappuccino pudding. Jiwon said she absolutely hated that dish. Jiwon urged Haini, no matter what, you must go tomorrow or you'll regret it. The next day, In-hanen had finished packing and was at the airport, ready to leave. He had decided to take a break from this place for a while. Just as he approached the ticket counter, he heard Ha-ni calling out to him. He asked why she was there, and she said she had taken a half-day off to come see him because she had something to ask. She asked, "Were all the desserts I've eaten during this time the ones you made for Jiwon?" Hain said she knew this, but she didn't know when he would be back, so she had something important to tell him. Then Hain shouted loudly at Injuan, "I really like you!" Everyone in the airport turned to look at her with admiring eyes. After saying everything she wanted to say, Hain felt much lighter. In-hwan told Haini that he was very sorry. She told him he didn't need to apologize at all. She was the one bothering him. He asked if she could wait for him. He wanted to make a special dessert just for her, and then he would come back. Haini was very surprised to hear him say that, and asked what he meant. In-hwan said that for some time now, every time he made a dessert, he always thought of Haini, wondering how happy she would be when she ate it. So if she came because she was hungry, he would immediately whip up that dessert. He apologized to her for not being able to completely erase Jiwon from their space, as that would mean Haini wouldn't have complete happiness. Haini sniffled and wiped her nose. In-hwan asked if she was crying, and she told him she was about to freeze to death. In-hwan took off his scarf and wrapped it around Haini. He said, "If a better man shows up around you, I'll leave right away. But until I return, if that man hasn't appeared, I'll confess to you." Haini told him that she would definitely kick him away at that time. In-hwan asked, "Can I confess to you like that?" Hain took off the hair tie from her head and handed it to In-hwan. She said she didn't know if she had another guy, but she hoped he would come back before that. She told him that she would definitely wait for his return. In-hwan also promised that he would come back for sure. Just then, snow began to fall, making their scene even more romantic. Both of them reached out to catch the first snowflakes of the season. They temporarily said goodbye as In-hwan boarded a plane to Switzerland. Haini returned home, determined to wait for him. At that moment, talking to Haini made In-hanen feel really comfortable. He was determined to return quickly to find her. Finally, winter arrived. A very cold winter. But everyone eventually found happiness. Dong-suk was always there for Dongjang and her mother. Jeonhook and Jiwon spent every day together, experiencing sweet happiness. Both felt very content with their current lives. Finally, her father could rest easy knowing she had found someone to give her heart to for a lifetime. Spring quickly arrived, and today everyone was busy preparing for Jiwon and Jeonhook's wedding party. Jeonhook's grandfather even hired a band to perform at their wedding. Everyone had been eagerly anticipating this ceremony for a long time. Everyone hoped that she and Jeonhook could live happily together. Hain went to the bridal waiting room to meet Jiwon. She knocked on the door to ask if she could come in. When Hain stepped inside, she was immediately stunned by Jiwon's beauty. She saw Jiwon wearing the sparkling glasses that Jeonhook had gifted her. Jiwon asked Hain why she had just arrived. Jiwon smiled happily, looking like a fairy descended from the heavens. "Today," Hain said. Jiwon looked so beautiful that she felt like crying. Jiwon thanked Hain for the compliment, looking at herself in the mirror and mentioning that her belly seemed a bit bigger, but it should be fine. Hain said that Jiwon was about to have the 2 cutest babies in the world. She joked that she would definitely become an aunt with 1,000,000 points. At that moment, Hyerne received a phone call. She told Jiwon to wait a moment, and when she saw it was In-hwan calling, she was quite surprised. Jiwon told Hyerne that he must have arrived by now. Jiwon mentioned that she had sent him the address to come over. She grabbed Hyone's shoulders and urged her to answer his call. He must be waiting for her. Hyene stepped outside to take the call, unsure of what to say to him. At that moment, she asked him why he called her. In-hwan asked her when she had cut her hair short, saying it really suited her. She was surprised and asked how he knew she had cut her hair. Had he seen her? Was he nearby? In-hwan told her to look out the window. Hyeni couldn't believe it. He was really back. Was he actually standing right in front of her? He looked just the same. Nothing had changed since the day he left. She immediately ran downstairs to him, asking when he returned to South Korea. In-hanan said he just got back this morning, and as soon as he landed, he rushed over to see her. She teased him, saying he must have been afraid of missing Ji-won's wedding, right? In-han shyly admitted he used the wedding as an excuse just to see her. Hyeni playfully remarked that he probably didn't buy any chocolate and was just flattering her. She asked if he really came all this way just to see her. He replied that he brought back a lot of famous Swiss chocolate just for her. While in Switzerland, every time he saw something beautiful or delicious, the first person he thought of was Hyeni. He said it wasn't intentional. Her image just kept popping into his head, which is why he brought back all that sweetness to gift her. She asked if all of it was really just for her. In-hwan declared that no matter who it was, he would say this was only for Hyene. He rolled up his sleeve to show her that the string she gave him was still intact. He asked her if their promise was still valid. At that moment, Hyene understood. In-hwan told her that from now on, his heart would only belong to her. The two embraced each other happily. After a while, Hyene led Hanan into the bridal waiting room to meet Ji-won. In-kwon congratulated Ji-won on her marriage and asked if she was doing well and if she would be staying in South Korea for good. Hyene said that this time he had to set up his shop properly and definitely not leave again. Ji-won felt very happy for the two of them, seeing them together like this. One was the sibling of the person she loved most, and the other was her closest friend. She was thrilled that they could truly be together. Hyeni and In-hanan were holding hands tightly, and from now on they were definitely not letting go of each other for a single step. At this moment, Ji-won's friends had also arrived, showering her with congratulations, not only for getting married but also for becoming a mother. Truly the best news ever. Ji-won asked if the person they'd just met was In-hanan. Ji asked how much the dress Ji-won was wearing cost, hoping Ji-won would whisper the price to her. The two whispered for quite a while, and it's a mystery what secrets they shared with each other. Gaia was talking to her friends, saying that their Ji-won had succeeded. She felt jealous of the baby in the womb, saying, "In the next life, I definitely want to be born as Ji-won's child." At that moment, Dong-jung's daughter burst through the door and ran straight to Ji-won, wrapping her arms around her and exclaiming that she looked like a fairy today. Ji-won then asked who this adorable little girl belonged to. The little girl called her mum and Dong-suk to hurry over for a photo op with Ji-won. The two strolled in, chatting away about how the little one absolutely adores the garden here. They'd gone around 5 times already and she was still not bored. Dong-jung took Ji-won's hand and said Ji-won looked stunning today. She looked at Ji-won in her dress and felt like she was a bride too. Dong-suk asked her if she wanted to wear a dress one more time. If she agreed, he would definitely buy it for her. The atmosphere in the room was now filled with pure joy. Everyone was thrilled by Ji-won's happiness. Each person took a photo with the bride, starting with Dong-suk, Duran, and their daughter. Next up, the Jia crew stepped in for a group shot with Ji-won. At this moment, Jin-hook's crew asked him why, on such a supposedly lucky day, he looked so tense and awkward. His expression right now looked like Jin-hook was gearing up for battle. He said, "Just think about the twins about to make their grand entrance. Picture them taking their first wobbly steps and calling out for Dad, and you'll instantly find yourself beaming with a big, bright smile." He said that Jin-hook would definitely rush to marry Ji-won as long as she agrees. Suddenly, Gwan realized that for her it would probably be way too much to handle. Just then, Manager Oh showed up and said it was time to roll out. His little fans raised their hands and cheered him on. Jan-hook followed the wedding officiant, his heart racing with excitement. At this moment, Jan-hook's grandfather and mother were standing with Ji-won, praising her for looking like an absolute angel in that dress. He told her that even the bouquet she was holding had been grown by him personally. He mentioned that he was still clumsy in his craft, but he hoped she would like it. Gwan felt deeply touched upon hearing this. She told him he had already done so much for her, hugged him tightly, and expressed her heartfelt gratitude. Ji-won told him that this was the most beautiful bouquet she had ever seen. He comforted her, saying he wished for her and Jin-hook to live happily. Meanwhile, Bang the cat was enjoying its freedom, wandering comfortably in the garden. Jin-hook thanked Manager Oh for officiating the ceremony for him. Manager Oh suddenly burst into tears, saying he never expected Jin-hook to get married like this. He grasped Jin-hook's shoulders, insisting that he must live well. Ji-won had finished by then and called for Jin-hook. Ji-won looked like a fairy stepping out of a fairy tale. At that moment, Jin-hook gazed at her intently, unable to utter a word. Hi, Jin, seeing her brother like this from afar, shouted out, warning him to watch out for bee stings. After all, their bride was incredibly beautiful. Director Cha mentioned that the chairman was very happy to officiate the wedding and said the ceremony was about to begin, so they should hurry up. Ji-won took Jin-hook's hand and they entered the party. She asked him if he had been waiting for her for a long time. Jin-hook replied that he had indeed waited a long time for her. They had walked a long road, overcoming even death itself. He said no matter how long it took, it didn't matter. What was important was that he would finally be happy with her. He held her hand tightly as they stepped in together. This moment was what he had been waiting for so long. The ceremony was held with great solemnity, and the band played the happiest melodies. Their little cat was also thrilled to see the beautiful wedding cake. The two of them slowly walked into the applause and cheers from all the guests present. Ji-won held Jin-hook's hand tightly, taking each step on the path they had travelled through so many hardships to reach. They paused before their grandfather. Ji-won felt truly happy that he was the one officiating her wedding. He declared that they were officially husband and wife. She asked her dad in heaven if he was watching her wedding. Jin-hook kept his promise to his father. She would live a truly happy life. The chairman seemed a bit flustered when he declared that they could kiss each other. Everyone at the party, especially Hyein, was cheering with excitement. Everyone was cheering for the groom to kiss his bride. Dong-jung's little one also seemed to be having a blast. Gwan told Jung-hook that while they couldn't predict the future right now, she didn't need that kind of certainty. She had been eagerly looking forward to savouring each day that passed with Jung-hook. He told her he would keep her laughing for a lifetime. This precious life wouldn't be the same without you, and I wouldn't be able to enjoy it, he said. Finally, the most anticipated moment of the wedding arrived, the bouquet toss. When the photographer counted to 3, Ji-won held the bouquet high behind her. The bouquet was tossed into the air, and the lucky one who caught it was none other than Hyein. Everyone at the party gathered for a picture-perfect moment, capturing pure joy. Ji-won's family was overjoyed and emotional, watching the young couple slice the wedding cake. Everyone in the picture had found their own slice of happiness in life, and it was truly a happy ending. Lovers will always find their way to each other, and hopefully, good people will always receive good outcomes. Thank you for listening to the story. If you enjoyed, please give it a like, and subscribe if you want to see more manhwa recaps. Let me know what stories you'd like to see next. And one last big thank you to everyone that left some really nice words of encouragement and really kept me motivated to keep posting these stories for everyone to enjoy. Until next time, bye-bye.